Hey, what's up? This is Mr. Ippolito, and you are here because you'd like to learn more about the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, I'm going to start off by recommending to you that you check out Black Americans in the Civil War from Crash Course Black American History. It is excellent, and even if you don't watch the whole thing, if you just watch the section here starting at 6 minutes and 2 seconds on the Emancipation Proclamation, and the link is in your document here, I think it's definitely worth checking out. But let's go ahead and let's get started, and let's get to the document itself, right? So first of all, I should give you a little bit of context. This was originally the idea Lincoln first came up with in the summer of 1862. But in the summer of 1862, the war was not going well for the Union, for the North. And so Lincoln's Secretary of State, William Seward, just mentioned to Lincoln, you know what, you might not want to introduce this just yet. You should probably introduce it from a position of strength rather than from a position of weakness, not make it appear as though you're desperate, and that's why you're issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. Why don't you wait until we have a big victory, and then you can roll it out. And so the Battle of Antietam on September 17th, 1863, Battle of Antietam is going to be the opportunity that Lincoln needs to go ahead and issue the Emancipation Proclamation from a position of strength. So it is eventually going to go into effect on January 1st, 1863. But as you can see here, less than 1 week after the Battle of Antietam on September 22nd, 1862, that is when he effectively rolls it out. He announces it to the nation. So here's what he's saying. Whereas on the 22nd day of September 22nd, 1862, this is the proclamation. This is what I am announcing to you that is going to take effect on January 1st, 1863. Here's what's going to happen. Any states that are in rebellion against the United States, right? So currently that is the Confederacy, the Confederate States of America. If you are still in rebellion on January 1st, 1863, then we are going to free all of the enslaved people that are considered property on all of your lands, in all of the areas that are in rebellion. Boom. This is a big bombshell that Lincoln is dropping, because this is, so first of all, like I said, the North was having some trouble. Frederick Douglass is pushing Lincoln, you know what, let us get involved in the war. Let black people get involved in the war. There's also trouble because Britain and France are threatening to intervene on the side of the Confederacy. They want that cotton, and they weren't getting it because there was a blockade. They could not, the Northern Navy, the Union Navy was blockading the South, so they couldn't get that supply of cotton that they so desperately wanted. So Britain and France were actually contemplating helping the Confederacy, but Britain and France are also very much anti-slavery. So by announcing that this war is now going to be a war in effect to end slavery, boom, Britain and France are like, you know what? We're supporting the Union now. Not actively. They didn't provide us, the Union, with any support or, money or anything, but they stayed out of the war and did not intervene on behalf of the Confederacy. Now, Lincoln's going to offer an ultimatum, right? Lincoln is giving the Confederacy a chance. He's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. On the first day of January, aforesaid by proclamation, designate the states and parts of states, if any, with which the people thereof respectively shall then be in rebellion against the United States. In other words, he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you 100 days. It's September right now. You have until midnight on when the ball drops. There was no ball dropping, but when the ball drops on New Year's Eve, boom, it becomes January 1st, 1863. I'm going to give you until then. If you'd like to come back into the United States, then I will not touch what you consider to be property. I'm going to leave what you consider to be property alone, and you will be unaffected by this. Just come on back, return to the United States peacefully, and we will leave you alone. How many Confederate states took Lincoln up on that bargain? 0. They stayed in active rebellion. And so Lincoln says, if you want to come back, we will absolutely welcome you back peacefully. However, if you refuse, and if you are still in rebellion, then by virtue of the power in me, vested as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority and government of the United States, here's what's going to happen. I'm calling you out and putting you on notice. And he calls each state out one by one. the following states are going to have all of their enslaved people freed effective January 1st. Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana. Now, there were parts of Louisiana that had been taken under control of the Union Army, and so those parishes, they call counties parishes in Louisiana, those parishes will be left untouched, including the city of New Orleans. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, except West Virginia. Those were the 48 counties from in the north and west part of Virginia that broke away. West Virginia seceded from regular Virginia in 1860. Well, they officially became a state in 1863. They seceded. So the enslaved people in West Virginia, they will stay put because they are now under Union control. But everybody else, boom, 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 boom. All of you states, I'm calling you, I'm putting you on notice right now and calling you out. If you are still in rebellion by January 1st, then all of those enslaved people are going to be freed. And by virtue of the power and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are henceforward shall be free, and that the executive government of the United States, in other words, we're going to protect you. We're going to, newly enslaved people, if you run away, we are going to protect you using the full strength and force of the United States Armed Forces. Now, he does say, now, I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free and to abstain from all violence. There's no need to be violent. There's no need to kill your former masters unless in necessary self-defense. And I recommend to them that in all cases when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages. So this is Lincoln kind of throwing a bone to those southern slaveholders, particularly the ones in the border states. We're going to talk about them in just a moment. The border states, like he's trying to just calm them down. He's like, this is just a military strategy. This is not about revenge. This is not about anything else other than military strategy. Now, again, those border states, because we talked about calling out all of these states right here that were in active rebellion. Let's take a look really quickly at these border states here. So Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware, they stayed loyal to the Union. There were some folks there that really wanted to join the Confederacy as well, but there were enough people in the state legislatures to maintain their loyalty to the Union. So these four border states, even though they practiced slavery, they stayed loyal to the Union. They stayed loyal to Lincoln, and so they stayed in the Union. And so they and their enslaved people were not going to be subject to the Emancipation Proclamation. Further, and this might be even bigger, and I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable condition will be received into the armed service of the United States, to garrison forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to man vessels of all sorts in said service. So we're now about to have black soldiers and black sailors, and this is what Frederick Douglass, by the way, Frederick Douglass, fun fact, the first black man to be invited to the White House as a free black man, as a guest, not as a servant, not as a slave. Frederick Douglass was invited to the White House where he reamed Abraham Lincoln. He's like, you need to do more. You need to do better. And Abraham Lincoln very wisely and very graciously listened to all of Frederick Douglass's very harsh criticism. And he's like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. You just got to wait. Just got to wait, just got to wait. And now this is the moment that we're waiting for. So Frederick Douglass is thrilled. Two of Frederick Douglass's sons enlist to serve in the United States military. Interesting fact, and I got this fact from Clint Smith from Crash Course Black History. Over 186, I need to write this down, over 186,000 black volunteers in the United States Army. 186,000. And this was at a point in time, I should mention, that the Union Army was hurting. So the fact that they got 186,000 new recruits, black soldiers, that was huge for the Union Army. Also, interesting statistic, I also got this from Clint Smith. 70% of all eligible free blacks in the North served from the North. That's an incredible statistic. 7 out of every 10 black men who were of age, who were eligible, we're not talking about 13 years old, right? But 18 to whatever the old cutoff age was, right? Like you could be this young, but you can't be any older than this. 70% of the black men from the North, living in the North, who were of the appropriate age, volunteered to serve in the Union Army. That is incredible. And Frederick Douglass has said, we're going to, you know what, we're going to turn the tide of this war. All right. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, he's like, you know what? This is the right thing to do. I have the power to do it. I am the commander-in-chief. It is warranted by the Constitution under my war powers upon military necessity, and I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God, because America at this time in the 1860s is overwhelmingly a Christian nation. Lincoln knows this. He knows his audience. He's using this to his advantage. This is an example of a really, really good example of how Lincoln is really good at rhetoric. He's really good at speech giving. He's really good at using the power of the English language to be convincing, to make a great argument. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed, done at the city of Washington, and it goes into effect the first day of January, January 1st, 1863. 186,000 black volunteers in the Union Army. The tide is beginning to turn for the United States, for the Union. There's going to be the Battle of Gettysburg on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 1863, the Siege of Vicksburg on July 4th, 1863. But this is what many believe to be this point in time, this turning point here. The Emancipation Proclamation is what turns the tide from the South looking like they were about ready to win and about ready to continue their practice of slavery indefinitely and defeat the Union Army. This is the turning point where the Union starts to have an advantage, and the Union is just going to keep winning after this. All right, that's all I have to say about the Emancipation Proclamation. Hope you learned something. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.